I mean, the first episode ever of Martial Arts Odyssey was shot in the Philippines with me and Master Frank. And if you watch it, it's not bad. Frank knows a lot, and we got a lot of great information that can help you as a martial artist. The only thing is we didn't do enough action, but we didn't have a format yet. We didn't know what we wanted the show to look like, or what I wanted the show to look like. So anyway, thanks to Alex and thank God the show got shot. We did the first episode there in the Philippines. And while I was in the Philippines, I got a call from another TV network, another really big show. They wanted to do a show on Bokator, and this was a little different. This was a show that focused on fighting. They originally were going to hire me as the martial arts consultant. Then they decided to also hire me as the scout, and my job was they wanted me to fly back to Cambodia immediately. And over a period of about 2.5 months, my job was to go and find every single master of every single Khmer martial art, Bokator Story, Chapapuran Khmer, and Bokator. Find everybody, train with them, photograph them, write little reports on them, evaluations, and spar with them, because I had to pick out the ones that were going to be on the show. And I had to find the ones that had students that would be good enough to fight these American guys that were coming over from the TV show. So this was an incredible experience. I just traveled everywhere in the country. I literally met every single master. There's one province I didn't go to where I wanted to go before I finished my book on Bokator. But other than that, I met just about all these guys, and it was a really just great experience. And it just seemed like, this one knew a little bit of stick, and that one knew a little bit of that, and that one knew a little bit of the other thing. But in the end, it was really Grandmaster Sam Kim Sane was the only one that had everything. And he was the only one that had a real school. I mean, all the other ones were kind of working out of their house, and they'd have 10 or 15 students. Generally, their son was the best student, and everybody else, the quality dropped off dramatically after that. And almost none of them had any guys that could fight. One of the masters that I worked with in Phnom Penh his son had about 4 or 5 pro fights, so he could probably fight a little. But the problem was that if they fought under Bokator rules, that includes ground fighting, which means these American MMA guys would have a big advantage. Now, if you've ever fought in Asia, let me tell you right now, if you get in a kickboxing ring with a Khmer or a Thai, the probability is you're going to lose. And I don't care what you've done before. These people can kickbox like nothing you've ever seen before. There's nothing like it. They will kick you so hard that their shins will be bleeding. You will pummel them. You will pummel them with your fists. It will be so far ahead on points, and the guy doesn't go down. I mean, I've seen it. I've lived it. I've had fights where I had the guy on the ropes every round for 3 rounds, and me just pounding him, 100, 150 punches a round, and in the end, he wins. They're tough, but if you're going to get in there, fight them MMA style with gloves off, then it's a different story, because they don't know how to ground fight very well. And the other thing is that the biggest fighters are going to be about 65 or 70 kilos, whereas most of the foreigners are going to be in excess of 90. So you're just a lot bigger than they are. So it became really hard to find a master who could fight. We wound up having to change the focus of the show and then make the final fight a kickboxing fight, a Khmer boxing fight. And we used real Khmer kickboxers for that. But anyway, that experience going around the country for 2.5 months, fighting with all these masters and training with them, that was a lot of where I learned my Bokator technique. Derek Morris was an American soldier in Iraq. He contacted me while I was still in Korea, in fact, and said, look, I'm getting out of the Army soon. I want to learn martial arts. I read about you in Black Belt magazine. Where do you think I should go? And I suggested he go to Cambodia, and he went. So when I came for the first History Channel show that we did, Derek was there, and we met for the first time. When I came back now for this long assignment where I was going to be there for months, Derek had been living on the floor at the Bokator school, training every day, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. And he did this forever, and then he had just decided to move into an apartment. He couldn't take being in the school anymore. And I arrived, and he said, well, look, why don't we, we'll share this apartment. It's a 2-bedroom apartment. So our schedule was crazy, man. The whole house just revolved around our training, eating, sleeping. And I would get up at like 5:30 in the morning and go wrestle with the wrestling team. Derek would go to the Bokator school and just do his animal styles. For his test, he had to learn something like 800 or 1,000 movements of Bokator for his black belt test. And I would wrestle in the morning, then I'd go lift weights. then I'd go to the Bokator school, and I told Master and I had an agreement, which was I only wanted to learn the fighting techniques. I had no interest in learning forms or weapons, because it's just not something that I'm very interested in. But he worked with me on my elbows and my knees, my fighting techniques, and then in the afternoons I'd go box with Patty Carson at Patty's gym. And that was it was just wonderful. I mean, it was a really nice time in my life, and I was really getting to know Cambodia even more. I was getting to know, it was really funny when I first arrived. I had forgotten how to speak Khmer for the most part. I've been studying Thai in Thailand, so that kind of interfered a lot. And because I was out in the field all the time in these remote places interviewing people, I just got, my Khmer got much better than it had been even when I was living there. And I would always take a translator with me just in case I needed a lifeline, but I would try and do most of the interviews speaking Khmer. And we did the show finally. When the show ended, a week later we did our black belt test, and Derek tested for a black belt in complete Khmer Bokator system, including animal styles, and he got his teaching certificate, and I did my black belt in just Khmer Bokator fighting. And in my test I had to do wrestling, I had to do boxing, I had to do kickboxing, I had to do everything, elbows, knees, and I was graded on all these things. And I'd had assignments, like to go out to the wrestling village and wrestle in the dirt, fight in the dirt, and it was kind of part of my test or part of my training, and to go do kickboxing with Patty Carson because Khmer boxing is part of Bokator. So we both earned our belts.